By the way, has anyone convincingly explained what rational reason there is to keep paying attention to the path to rebirth once Mr. Ishimaru steps down as representative? Ryosuke Nishida's question is simple and cruel. Is there still a rationale for paying attention to the path of renewal? And why are we still here? The numbers speak of defeat, but reality is overwritten by stories. Enthusiasm has created a nucleus. Disgust has thickened the boundaries. The expansion stopped there. From here on out, observation is where it comes in. A, to know. B, to measure. C, to test. The three rationales are relevant even to you, the non-supporter. I'm going to tackle this question with a hypothesis. Normally, I would first quote Quora's thoughtful remarks here. But before I do, I have a video that gives a clear explanation of the situation that I was personally overlooking. But before that, here is a video that gives a clear explanation of the situation from my personal perspective. Shinji Ishimaru and his members. Shinji Ishimaru and his supporters. Shinji Ishimaru and his voters. I would like you to watch it from such a point of view.
5秒前、4、3、2。
さあ、生放送でお送りしておりますハッピーエブリデイ。さあ、続いては中継のコーナーでございます。今回は名古屋に新しくできた施設ステーション AI をご紹介します。一体どんな施設なんでしょうか。レポートしてくれるのは番組初登場の松井さんでございます。現場の松井さん。
はーい、松井です。はーい。
10月1日に
よろしくお願いします。はい、私は今です。
そちら
はい、CM 入りました。
ちょっと来て。言葉かぶりすぎ。タイムラグでちょっとずれちゃうっていうのを多分松井さん分かってらっしゃらない。本当に放送事故になりかけたから今。ましょう。現場の松井さん。松井さん。
はい、松井です。
よろしくお願いします。
はい、私は今ステーション AI の
はいですね。
私は今ステーション AI の
一般の方も練習しないとね、一回ね。はい。
すいません。
いやこちらすいません。
中継がハンバーガー。
タイムラグで合わない。タイムラグ関係ない。根本的にそもそも合わない、ぶつかる。一度練習をしてからやった方がいいですか。送信。ダメぶつかる。全部ぶつかる。文字もぶつかる。聞いた上でそれに答える。
もしよかったら今度一緒にお食事行きませんか。
お願いします。
よろしくお願いします。
今お食事誘われてなかった。
Well, if you only look at what he says in the mass media, Ishimaru's syntax sounds like a pain in the ass. But people have a front face and a back face. From what I have seen and heard, people who give the impression of being villains in the front are generally good people behind the scenes. It is a common media practice to bash the losers. The same is true of Renho-san in the last Tokyo gubernatorial election. But this has the effect of delegitimizing those who challenge things. I wonder if there is any benefit in doing this. I quite like the big reform perspective that Mr. Ishimaru sees, although I think he probably doesn't understand it, not even 1% of the population. So I thought I would write a little about the path of renewal and the upcoming House of Councilors election. How many people have applied for the path of rebirth? 1,128 people applied to Ishimaru's new party, Path of Rebirth, the largest number being in their 40s, and nearly 90% are men, some of whom have experience as a chief of a city. According to Ishimaru, the candidates generally have annual incomes of 10 million or more. The percentage of those with annual incomes of 10 million or more is 5.5% in Japan as a whole. It seems that it is very difficult to choose candidates for each party and for the diet. Even someone like Mr. Tamaki of the National Democratic Party of Japan messed up in choosing people. If you have a low income, you might have a shot. There is almost no merit for a person with high specs and high income to enter the world of politics. All you get is useless publicity and slander, which are all disadvantages. Then why did more than 1,000 high-spec personnel gather for the selection process, asking to be allowed to participate themselves in the path of revitalization? Don't you wonder? After following the path of regeneration for a bit, I think I understand the reason. People who are somewhat successful in the world are actually quite interested in the world of politics. However, because they are capable people, they also realize that even if they try to make reforms on their own, they will be rebuffed by a big force, and that is almost always a disadvantage. Therefore, they put politics aside for the time being and work hard at their jobs. Then, I saw a video of Mr. Ishimaru, a company employee with no connections like myself, who became the mayor of Akitakata City. At first, he starts out with sensationalistic phrases like, "Shame on you." Then we see the financial restructuring materials that Mr. Ishimaru presented at the rural city council level. The more you watch, the more you realize that this man is trying to change the very structure of politics, including elections. So the largest number of candidates for the path to rebirth are in their 40s, and 90% of them are male. These people who have reached a certain point in their lives where they have settled down to work and raise their children are now looking to change the structure of politics, including elections. When they were thinking about what to do next in their lives, they saw Mr. Ishimaru, and the feeling that they had once tried to enter the world of politics began to rise. That is why they raised their hands in the selection process. After the Tokyo Metropolitan Assembly election, when I talked to the candidates for the path to rebirth, it seemed that a good number of them were planning to continue their political activities. What I heard from them was, "I don't know how this turned out," and "Politics is difficult, unlike business." We were reminded of the inexplicable nature of the political game. I think it was a struggle towards this system. I think the way to revitalization is for organizations to create a system of political emissions that is different from the old electoral system based on organizational votes. It would be like the entertainment industry, where people do things fairly and honestly based on merit alone, using social networking services, without involving entertainment agencies. I think everyone likes the idea of fair and square. As I see it, apart from Mr. Ishimaru, I think that people in the Provincial Department of Regeneration are becoming more and more enthusiastic about continuing the organization and creating this structure that produces politicians. For this reason, I would like to see one seat in the House of Councilors election, so I think this is the place to work hard.
Now here is the path to the solution. Since Dr. Nishida's question is supposed to be a simple question, here is how I would answer it in a simple way. At the point when Mr. Ishimaru lost the upper house election and retired, many people took it as it is over. Still, if there is any rationality, it is the fact that more than 1,000 people applied for the position, and dozens of them still remain and continue to work. As long as people keep moving, it remains meaningful to observe. Solution: the emotions of defeat, the logic of the crowd, and the translation of ideals. Why we still have reason to watch the path to rebirth. 0. The core question. The resignation of the representative may look like a resignation in disgrace. And yet, is there still a rational reason for the non-supporters to keep watching? The answer is yes. But it is not a reason to cheer. It is the responsibility to observe. 1. Crowd psychology. Passion does not expand. Punishment is swift. The crowd moves with two desires: the desire to belong, to be on the same side, the desire to punish, to strike those who disturb the order. Provocative words, clashes with the media, isolation and debate. That style maximized the fervor of the few, but at the same time it provoked the urge to punish and shrank the outer circle of empathy. Passion spreads, but disgust spreads faster. That is the physics of the crowd. Passion builds a core. Disgust hardens the boundary. The core grows stronger, but the boundary grows thicker. And expansion stops there. They claim to target the floating vote, yet all they did was reinforce the boundary. The defeat lies there. 2. Facts and reality. Numbers speak, but narratives overwrite. Fact: they lost the election. Reality: society loves a story of defeat because it's safe to attack. The media demands an explanation from the loser. Social media craves a short, simple cause. And so, complex ideals are overwritten by a simple tale of failure. Even if the ideals are not wrong, lose the race of narrative speed, and reality is decided. Misread this, and no matter how right you are, you will not be heard. 3. Hatred and love. The moment a scapegoat is born. Structural critique always paints an enemy. The crowd attaches that empty enemy image to a single face. This is the moment of scapegoating. The love of supporters clings to the person. The hatred of non-supporters also clings to the person. When conflict centers not on ideas but on a person, the movement loses its capacity to expand. A crowd that keeps striking a person never touches the idea. To reach the idea, there must be a shielding of the individual. Resignation can become that shield, removing the personal image and shining light once more on the ideal. 4. Indulgence and strength. The pleasure of justice. The burden of responsibility. To speak justice is a pleasure. To carry justice is a trial. Indulgence. Condemning an enemy makes you feel pure. Strength. Having the will to negotiate even with the enemy in order to move the system. The sharpness of conflict gives pleasure, but the system moves only through negotiation. Translating ideals into society requires the quiet strength to cut away indulgence, both in oneself and in others. The meaning of leadership change lies here, whether they can shift from the pleasure of justice to the responsibility of justice. 5. Past and future. The three-stage model. The one who strikes, the one who shapes, the one who carries. If we compare it to the lineage of philosophy, Socrates, the one who strikes, breaking taboos, opening questions. Plato, the one who shapes, systematizing thought, giving it a frame. Aristotle, the one who carries, translating into everyday words, bringing it into reality. The one who strikes is essential, but unless the one who carries appears, society does not move. Resignation is not merely a change of face, but a test of whether it can invite a change of role. The courage to strike lights the flame. The wisdom to carry spreads the flame. 6. The path to rebirth as a device. 3 possible futures. Dissolution. The box remains, but the heat is lost, and it scatters. Institutionalization. It mutates into a human resource infrastructure for recruitment, training, and endorsement. The emergence of a translator. A leader who majors not in conflict, but in making things visible and building consensus. 2 and 3 can coexist. Above all, the translator would lower the image of the enemy, raise the image of the system, connect to the image of us, the lived reality of daily life. Only then will the boundaries of the non-supporters begin to loosen. 7. The rational reasons for non-supporters to keep watching. Not support, but the responsibility to observe. Even if you do not support, there are 3 rational reasons to pay attention. A. Intellectual curiosity. Why did 1,000 gather, and why did expansion fail? Unraveling the causes of failure is the shortest path to understanding society. B. Ripple effects. New methods of candidate selection and SMS campaigning will reshape the behavior of other parties and your voting environment. Changes that rebound onto you are worth knowing, regardless of your support. C. Democracy's litmus test. How society treats a new challenge is a mirror of this nation's maturity. To look away from that mirror is to look away from your own future. 8. Anticipating the counter-arguments. Preventing the wear of logic. Resignation equals taking responsibility. Correct. As common perception, it's valid. The ideals are right, but not reaching people. Unreached ideals are unfinished. The cost of translation is the sender's duty. It doesn't matter to those not interested. The relevance comes later. Through imitation by other parties, institutional design, and communication methods, it circles back into everyday life. Observation is not neutral. Observation is an investment that makes the next choice wiser. 9. The solid core, signs and gaps revealed by the data. 1,128 applicants, centered in their 40s, mostly men. A thickness on the supply side was formed. The election was lost, a failure in cultivating the demand side. Motivations mixed, ideal-driven, skill-driven, honor-driven. The challenge is designing selection and training. Diagnosis, supply thickness. Translation failure, equals expansion halted. Prescription, appoint translators, make training protocols visible, and develop a vocabulary that connects to daily life, shifting from system speak to kitchen speak. 10. Conclusion. It is not over yet. That is why we must witness. Noble ideals are true only when they reach. Resignation can be the period of defeat, or the starting point of translation. From here, can they shed the pleasure of justice and wear the responsibility of justice? That is what the non-supporters must watch for. If the striker lit the flame, then the carrier must spread it. If it still does not burn, that is society's answer. But if it burns, then it reaches your future. Observation is not a cold act. Observation is the strength to protect your own judgment. And so I say, the path to rebirth deserves not first support, but first observation. That is the rationality of the non-supporters.
People wandering, losing sight of victory's path, still